Hi, my name is Penny and welcome to my channel. Today I thought I would do a tag video to give myself an excuse to talk more about books, and I'm going to do the to be read tag. I'll link all the original video stuff down below if you want to check that out, but let's get into the questions. So the first question is, how do you keep track of your TBR pile? So I do a combination. I have particular shelves that are books that I haven't read. I have one section for standalone books I haven't read and one section that's for either the next book in the series or the beginning of a new series to be read. There's quite a few books there. I also have a to be read list in Goodreads. I particularly use that for books that I want to get out of the library or that I might want to buy in the future. And there's quite a few books on that list too. So the second question is your TBR mostly physical or ebook? I'm not really sure. I think it's maybe about half and half. No, maybe there's more. The problem with me is that my physical ones are the ones on my shelves, and then most of the ones on my Goodreads list I'll get out from the library in ebook form, but there is some overlap between my Goodreads list and my shelves, so who really knows? Who really knows? Not me. So the next question is, how do you determine which book from your TBR pile to read next? As I've said before, I'm trying to finish off the series that I have in progress, so I always look first for books that I feel like reading that are on that list and try and get hold of those books so I can read them. I also try to do a fair amount of readathons to motivate myself to read, and in that case it'll be whatever books fit the challenge. But I guess primarily it's just kind of gut feel. Sometimes there's a book that for those reasons I should really strongly read, but I just don't feel like it, and in that case I'll just read whatever it is that I feel like, because I think it's much more important just to be reading. And if you're trying to force yourself, I've done it in the past where I forced myself to read a book I didn't really want to read, and then I've read like one book in that whole year, because it's not nice to force yourself to read. It doesn't work. So then the next question is a book that's been on your TBR the longest. So I had a look at my Goodreads list and sorted it by opposite date added order, and the book that came up was The Chronicles of Thomas Covenant the Unbeliever by Stephen Donaldson. So I have actually read this series, but quite a while ago, and I put it, I think when I first started Goodreads, I just put all the books I owned onto it, and this is one that I wanted to reread, and I still want to reread it, but it's mammoth, and there's a lot of other books that I will read before that. So the next question is a book that you've recently added to your TBR, and for that I would say The Chemist by Stephanie Meyer. So I did see this when it first came out and I kind of wanted to read it, but not enough that I remembered to put it on my Goodreads list. But when I saw this in the library the other week, I grabbed it and I remembered to put it on my Goodreads. So that's the one that I added the most recently. So the next question is a book that's on my TBR because of its beautiful cover. And I didn't have that many of these, so most books that are on my TBR list are because I've heard someone say that they were good, or I heard the synopsis and I thought it sounded interesting. Really, if I'm going to do a cover buy, it's normally in the store and I see it and I buy it. But since I tend to only buy books if they're really cheap, that doesn't happen often. The probably one I could say that I did that with in the past would be Magonia. Hang on, I'll grab it. So Magonia is like this. Look, it's beautiful, it's beautiful, so lovely, and I didn't like it at all. So after I bought that book, I kind of told myself that buying books for the cover doesn't always pan out. For once in my life, I learnt my lesson. However, when I did go through my TBR, I did find one book, which is In Real Life by Cory Doctorow and Jen Wang. So when this book first came out, I saw the cover and I thought it was really cool, and I even printed a copy out and had it on my wall for a while. I honestly don't know much about that book, but I do like the cover, so one day maybe I'll read it. Slightly worried that cover buyers aren't good. So the next question is a book on your TBR that you never plan on reading, and I don't have any of these. If I don't plan on reading a book, then I will get rid of it, or I will take it off my Goodreads list. When I had a look through, I couldn't see anything that I don't plan on reading one day, although some of those days might be very far in the future. So the next question is an unpublished book that you're excited for, and for this one I had to put The Capitol's Tower by Melanie Rawn. So many years ago, Melanie Rawn wrote the first two books in this series, The Ruins of Ambrai and Mageborn Trader, and I don't remember exactly the plot, but I know that I love those books. Unfortunately, Melanie Rawn had some personal issues and she decided to take a break from that series, and so we've been waiting a very long time. Some people more patiently than others. I've tried to be on the more patient side because, you know, if someone has personal issues, they've got to sort that out, and I wouldn't want the book to be rushed or hurried or not the best that she could make it. So she has recently started writing it again, so I'm hopeful that maybe we will have it someday. Someday, I hope. And when it comes to that, then I will reread the series. I've thought many times about rereading the series because I loved it so much, but I think there's probably no point because it's probably going to be another few years before the next book comes out, and so by then I'll have forgotten anyway. So I'll reread it when there's a proper release date. So the next question is a book that basically everyone's read but you. And for this I was trying to pick one that was actually on my TBR because there's a lot of books that lots of people have read and I haven't, and really I don't care. But one that was on my list that I think a lot of people have read is A Monster Calls by Patrick Ness. Really need to get to it because I think that I will like it, although there's a lot of hype. Hype is always worrisome. So the next question is a book that everyone recommends to you, and I think I couldn't think of, none of the books on my TBR were really ones that I thought fell under this category. But since we're talking about hype getting in trouble, one book that a lot of people were recommending to me was The Book Thief. Like everyone would say to me, Book Thief's my favorite book, you should read it. And I read it and I didn't like it, and well, no, it's not that I didn't like it. I liked it okay, you know, it was alright, but it just definitely wasn't my favourite book like everyone else who'd recommended it to me. I feel like I've got enough books on my TBR list that I've gotten from different booktubers that I respect their preferences, or just books that I'm interested in, that mostly I don't really ask for recommendations, and mostly people don't give them to me, not in real life anyway. I don't know that many readers in real life, hence why I'm here. So next question is a book on your TBR that you're dying to read, and for this one I went with Doors of Stone by Patrick Rothfuss, which will be the third book in the Kingkiller Chronicles, that's what it's called. This is another one that we've been waiting for a few years now, although it's nowhere near the wait for Capitol's Tower. Hopefully it won't get there. I am slightly concerned because I just saw something about it's going to be made into a TV series. I'm somewhat worried we're going to get into a situation like Game of Thrones where the TV series ends up getting ahead of the books. If a TV series of Name of the Wind comes out, I'm going to be really tempted to watch it, but I would definitely prefer to read things before I watch things. So hopefully Patrick Rothfuss won't let that happen. So the last question is the number of books on my Goodreads TBR, and that is 155. That's a lot of books. I also have about 90 books on my bookshelves, but as I said before, that's like an intersecting set, so there is some overlap there, but altogether there's probably like 200 books, and I don't even put a lot of things on that. A lot of things I just randomly get out of the library if they pop into my head when I'm trying to find books. Certainly don't need to worry about running out of books to read anytime soon. So let me know if you thought any of those books on my TBR that I mentioned are ones that I should get to really soon, if you've read them and you liked them, or what books do you have on your TBR that you're really excited about reading soon. And that's about all, so thanks for watching and I'll see you next time.